I appreciate everyone tuning in today. Like to welcome everyone to the Mossy Warrior Clan channel. I know people are just leaving another show, and we appreciate everyone that's tuned in right now. If you don't mind, to go ahead and hit the like button, share the show, subscribe to the channel, give us your feedback. We look forward to your feedback, and we're gonna get into this build today. Without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and my screen is sharing. And let me know if you guys can see my screen on the YouTube side, and we'll get right into it. All right, everybody. Y'all know how we go. When it's time to go to war, we go to war. Let's go to war. It was during the reign of one of the successors of Mansa Kanku Musa between 1312 and 37 that, according to the Tariq al-Sudan, the Mossy erupted onto the scene. The Sultan of the Mossy entered the town, pillaged it, set fire to it, reduced it to ruins, and after putting to death everyone he could lay hands on and seizing all the wealth he could find, he returned to his country. These events probably occurred in the years following the death of Kanku Musa, i.e., a century after the attack mentioned by the Tariq al-Fatish, which suggests a stable power was strong enough to launch such expeditions over such a great distance in such a long period. The Tariq al-Sudan records a third raid by the Mossy against Bangkok shortly after 1433. The earliest authors based their analysis on the oral traditions, which traces all the Mossy royal dynasties to a single ancestor, Naaba Wedrago, and establishes an explicit relation between the origin of the Mossy kingdoms and that of the Mamparusi Nanumba Dagamba states. The first histographers of the Mossy identified the Mossy of the Niger being with those of the White Volta, thus giving the history of the present-day Mossy kingdoms a much greater chronological depth than the study of oral traditions and the neighboring historical formation warrants. North of the forests and the savannas that stretch away to the middle Niger lay a group of states, some by 1600 with a century and a half or more developed, already behind them. These were the kingdoms of the Mossy complex, a southern group consisting of Memprusi, Dagamba, and Nanamba, and a northern group of Tikonda, Dogo, Wagadu, Yatenga, and Fada and Gurma. Three main phases stand out in the history of the Mossy: a phase of preparation, a second phase of conquest, and then we have a phase of stabilization. In the early 14th century, the first Mossy kingdom was established in the area of what is now Burkina Faso. This kingdom survived for almost 600 years when, in 1896, the French withstood Mossy resistance and claimed the territory as a republic of Upper Volta. When French colonial rule finally ended on August 5, 1960, the nation's name was changed to Burkina Faso. After leading the co-op in 1983, Captain Thomas Sankara became the head of state and was widely respected throughout the West Africa. However, he was assassinated during another coup in 1987.
This week, woke up in the corner, you move me and you don't even really try to. You probably don't even want them. My feelings for your name in the closet. The colors read your taste, and I don't wear red anymore. You hurt my hands, my rings don't fit my fingers anymore, and I will leave my papers on the door. I watch you leave every time I do, and it kinda feels like I'm living with you. But don't I help for 1 second more? Tie me up when you want. That is so well with my heart, and then you rip me apart. You tie me up when you want. Yeah, this so well with my heart, and then you rip me apart. And I don't wear red anymore. No, I don't wear red anymore. No, I don't wear red, not red, not red anymore. No, I don't wear red anymore. No. It's funny how I mix up my heart and my head. Now I just want you right here in my bed, contradicting all of the things that I said, and I don't want you to notice. Reading lips is hard when I can't stay. Keep your mouth shut, stop talking back. My nails are finally popping back. Yeah. Take care of them, care of them, care of the nails. Tie me up when you want.
All right, so what you guys just seen were images of Burkina Faso, a particular area, um, something for you to cherish, just to kind of paint a picture. Comparatively little is known of the early history of the stateless society tribes without rulers, or the northern savannas. Certainly during the formative years of the Mossy states, subjugated autonomous people were sometimes disposed, but more usually they were integrated into the new societies as common lineages and allowed to continue in occupation of their lands. But the Mossy kingdoms remained surrounded by the territory of unassimilated and indeed never subjugated Basari, Teleensi, Cassini, Uwani, Dogon, you'll see that again, it's like a cousin, Concumba, and the like. In contrast to the forest states, the power of these was based on firmly on the possession of horses and knowledge of the techniques of cavalry warfare. Using their heavy armor cavalry principles for defensive purposes, the real strength of the Savannah kingdoms lay in their employment of the light cavalry for long range raiding, penetrating countries where organized opposition was seldom encountered. Battles were correspondingly rare. Planners were concerned more with strategic than with tactical matters. Such conditions of warfare, however, did result in the extensive development of defensive works over a large area. Not only were larger towns frequently walled by, even village architecture was adapted to withstand sieges. Sicily and Awana villages, for example, have appearance of miniature fortresses. If you know anything about the Mossy will come through in raids. That's why I started with the quote at the beginning of the show, because what they did when they went into Timbuktu, they handled themselves like men, especially against people that were trying to push that agenda onto the Mossy. The Mossy states were in fact outstanding examples of the political stability which West African people have often enjoyed in the past. They are also illustrated the truth that West African states could enjoy this stability over long periods without any dependence on Islam or Muslim ways of thought and government. I'm going to say that one more time. They are also illustrated the truth that West African states could enjoy this stability over long periods of time, okay? Long periods without any dependence on Islam or on Muslim ways of thoughts and government. For the Mossy rejected all efforts to convert them to Islam and remained staunchly true to their traditional religions. And you'll hear people say animist this, animist that. You know, that's basically African spirituality. They just want to demonize it a particular way and say animist. Let's go, let's go. All right. Burkina Faso is a land inhabited. Hold on one second, y'all. My music tripping. I gotta stop it because my music tripping. So my apologies, I'm on slide 11. Let me get in here and get to this.
You must have put the time.
Yeah, I thought I stopped the timer real quick. Let me stop real quick. Give me 1 second, and I'm gonna get right back into it.
Please like, subscribe. Please like, subscribe, and share the show, fam.
All right. Oh, yeah. Let me do this right here. on. All right, let me get back in here. Hey, let me know when you can see my screen, Kofi.
I can't see nothing yet. So you must have had to go back and do some adjustments.
No, it was supposed to stop, man. I guess it did its own thing. It wanted to stay. It wanted to keep on. That's a song for Burkina Faso, by the way. The people sang it for themselves. You can see it now.
Yeah, you good.
All right, so my bad, guys. We about to get into it because we transitioning into you know, when you do this all the time, they don't let you go right back where you was at. We about to get into the meat of this presentation right now. All right, so Burkina Faso is a land inhabited by two races of beings, spears and men. Spears are made visible by masks, which may be made of wild leaves and grasses representing the forces of nature, or may be carved of wood with customs of cultivated fibers representing the social forces of the village. Virtually every ethnic group in Burkina Faso uses masks to make spears visible. Oh, yeah. So many people have a problem with the mask. They tend to demonize things in this particular culture. But if you study West African history at all, or consider yourself to be West African, then you need to look into the traditions of the mask. They have many meanings, and especially those that are very meaningful in this particular culture. So we're gonna dig into it, and we're gonna make it happen. In Mossy society, the male head of a clan often owns a mask that evokes an important being of animal associated with his family's origin myth. The clan and its totemic and animal are profoundly and inextricably linked. They share the same life force, and each clan member's soul is inseparable from the clanic animal. Remember that. Totemic masks like this one are intended to serve as direct lines of communication between their owner and the founding members of their extended family. Each year, the clan applies libations to its mask at a community ritual, which occurs in May, just before the beginning of the rainy season. Appeals are made for an early and abundant rainy season, as well as the general well-being of the entire clan during the coming year. Mossy is so central to a family's founding as well as to its more important recent past, present, and future, also play a prominent role in assuring a smooth transition to the afterlife. During the burial of any male or female clan elder, mass escort the body to the grave and ensure that all burial procedures are promptly followed. At the conclusion of the rites, the spirit's union with the clan ancestors is joyfully celebrated with the dances in which performers imitate the motions of the animals their masks depict. This video is a little long-winded,
I spent the spring semester of 1983,
but we're going to get into it.
1985, visiting the village of Uri in central Burkina Faso, just to the west of the Black Volta River. My family and I lived in a house just across the road from the homes of the Evo family in the Naniabon neighborhood of the village of Uri. Just like most of the other people in Burkina Faso, The members of the Evo family believe fervently that their lives are protected by the spirits of nature that inhabit the world around them. Once a year, they call on these spirits to come into the neighborhood to purify it and strip it of all of the malevolent forces that cause disease and accident and starvation. Each of these masks represents a different spiritual being. Each one has a different character or role to play, and each of the masks acts out the encounters between the ancestors and the spiritual being that it represents.
I want y'all to really pay attention to what's going on in this particular bill. Now, if you're familiar with Mr. Rowe, and I'm gonna say Mr. Rowe because he was brave enough to go live amongst the Mossy, and he actually spent years researching the Mossy. Now, does that make him the authority? No, I am not saying that. But he has done extensive research that people respect. But look at the mask, man. That made you hate this right here. Remember, he's mocking the animals. Different one. In each ceremony, you'll see similar things. You will always hit a drum. Always hit a drum. In Yoruba, they would say, you know, when he get into it right here, they call it ashe, that energy. Check this one out. That's a female on top of his head. Mm-hmm. The mask this brother is wearing is a Yatinga mask. We'll get into it later, and we'll take a look at a couple of Yatinga masks. All right, the video winding down. But what I'm trying to do in this particular video, and the reason for the length of it, is I wanted you guys to get the full gist of the mask and the Mossy history. Now, some people will try to say, you know, that's the Dogon. That's the Dogon. You can easily mistaken the Dogon with the Mossy, which earlier I said are cousins. And the ideal that goes into the mask making are very similar to the Dogon in that particular region. Now, down it says that many ethnicities in Burkina Faso believe masks possess magical powers, but that the Festima performers hold back and save the full power of the mask for private functions. She says in these instances, photography is strictly forbidden, and that attendees who try to disrupt in performance are sometimes beaten with a stick. The original meaning of the mask is extremely private and kept by animists, she explains. It's something that you will never see at the Festima. Throughout the Burkina Faso, each mask's idiosyncratic character is expressed by its dance steps, the musical accompaniment, and its movements. Animals' mask, intimate, In very stylized but expressive way, the actions or behavior are the creatures that represent. The Nuna village of Tissi, the bush pig darts rapidly around the performance area, frequently scurrying through the great clouds of dust raised by its dance. This is a shorter version, like a few minutes. I want to show y'all what it's talking about.
Masks are found all across sub-Saharan Africa. Used for both ritual and ceremonial purposes, masks are a key part of the traditional culture and art for many peoples of Africa. While you may view these masks as men dressed in a costume, tradition sees something more. A mask is a spirit. A mask is an ancestor. A mask is brought to life by the beat of a drum. A mask has a connection to another world. Masks are made from wood, fabric, metal, pottery, bone, hide, leaves, and more. Some masks are simple, while others are ornately painted and decorated. The chief costumier is the mask maker for the village, and this art and ritual is passed down from father to son. As a young boy, the son learns not to carve a mask and to sew a suit, but rather to understand the symbolism of each mask design and discover how to bring life into a mask. The masks seen here were filmed at the Dédégu Mask Festival in Burkina Faso, where more than 30 different villages come together every 2 years to celebrate their mask culture. Westerners are welcome to this celebration, but that is not the case for all mask ceremonies. Traditional culture in Burkina Faso remains very strong. I was fortunate enough to view a select handful of heavily mystic rituals, but I was told that I could not film or take photos for my own safety. In western Burkina Faso, it is not entirely uncommon to come across an assembly of masks, especially in Dédégu Bobodoaso. Be warned though, as they will harass you for money and will readily hit you if you are slow to hand over what they want. It's always good to carry around some change. These are just a small subset of the masks of sub-Saharan Africa. These masks were part of my service in Peace Corps, part of my Peace Corps story.
Mossy society is quite heterogeneous. The Mossy kingdoms were created in about 1500 when a large group of horsemen from northern Ghana rode into the valley of the White Volta and conquered the ancient populations of farmers, including the Dogon in the north, Germanchi in the east, and Nanuma in the southwest. These people were amalgamated into a new Mossy society, and the descendants continue to carve masks that resemble the Dogon and the Numa. Nuna and Weniama mask are the ancestors. In this way, the diversity of styles reflect the diverse ethnic origins of the people in Mossy society who make masks. The Yatinga mask. In Savannah region of West Africa, Burkina Faso, the Mossy tribe pay tribute to deceased elders using the Yatinga mask. This mask honors a woman's age, wisdom, and experience. Used in dance, it elevates her to the rank of the living ancestress, intermediary between the living and the spirits of the family's ancestor. This is an outstanding example, very good age, particularly on the inside, which is worn smooth. There are tension lines on the top of the holes, which have been pierced for headdress attachment. It has an outstanding deep encrusted patina, the mask itself carved out of hardwood, an outstanding addition to any first-rate collection of ethnographic of African art. This is another style of a Yatinga style, a Karima Wimba mask. Yatinga style masks have been cited as the most characteristic of the Mossy style in all publications to the present. They are vertically oriented, worn over the face, and consist of a round or oval facial area surmounted by a tall, thin wooded plank, often a meter and a half long, with a very small antelope head and the long horns rising above the masked face, just in front of the plank. In the great majority of examples, the antelope horns are not attached directly to the facial area of the mask, but come together to form a very small triangle, often colored white, which forms the head of the antelope. As in the rest of the Mossy country, masks are called wango. However, Yatinga style masks with oval faces, planks, and antelope horns may also be referred to by the more specific name, Karinga. Here's another that you seen in the first video of the people dancing around and so forth. That was also a Karinga mask. The image you find in mask of the Bobo Bois, Karumba, Mossy, and other living in Burkina Faso commonly combine the stylized features of human, animals, and even insects. Bold geometric shapes enliven the surfaces of these relative abstract forms. This monumental mask is composed of an oval-shaped face surmounted by a distinctive vertical superstructure extending more than 5 feet. It is shaped as a flat, narrow rectangle with geometric openwork and inset design. Antelope antlers are depicted where the face mask intercepts with the vertical extension. They are long, straight, and tampered with inset lines on the bottom half. 2 rows of triangle nubs bisect the concave face, which has triangular cut-out eyes. The face's side panels are adorned with 3 vertical rows of small triangles, as you can see on the face. This type of mask is produced exclusively in the northeastern area of the Mossy country, in the Yatinga region, where 2 distinct varieties of antelope reside. This mask, known as the Karinga mask, depicted the large antelope, a Hippotragus kaba, the Karinga mask in the region's most prominent masquerade.
This video records 2 funerals in the tiny village of Sini, about 20 kilometers north of the town of Yako in northern Burkina Faso in 1976. The deceased was a male elder of the Sawadogo family who had died 4 months earlier. His remains had been buried very quickly after he died, and a date was set for the funeral, or memorial service, at a time when all of the members of the family could gather and provide plenty to eat and drink. The mask is worn by a young man of the family of the deceased. He is chosen by his older male relatives based on his talent as a performer. The mask includes a costume made of cultivated hemp fiber, which covers only his head and shoulders, and a small skirt like a ballet dancer's tutu. The northern Mossy are notable in Burkina Faso for the small size of the costume worn with the mask. The mask is carved of wood with an oval facial area divided vertically by a dentate ridge. Above the face of the mask are the head and horns of an antelope. The long, slender plank rises vertically above the facial portion of the mask. The plank is covered with geometric patterns that represent the religious laws by which the Sawadogo family must conduct their lives in order to receive God's blessings. The plank itself represents the path that the first ancestors followed at the creation as they descended from the sky to the earth. The Mossy call this the Yabasore, or the path of the ancestors. These people are neither Christian nor Muslim. They practice the ancient religion of their African ancestors. Their world is controlled by natural spirits, spirits from the wilderness that watch over the community and protect them from harm. If you look closely, you can see the ends of the bar of wood that projects from each of the cheeks of the mask. The mask performer clamps this bar between his teeth so that he can hold the mask steady on his face. All of the members of the family, as well as the mask, walk around the dead man's house 3 times in a counterclockwise direction. If the deceased were a woman, they would circle the house 4 times. 3 is the sacred number for the male gender, and 4 is the sacred number for the female gender. You can see in the procession several women who are holding millet stalks. These women are the joking relatives of the deceased. That is, they are in-laws or relatives by marriage. The Mossy call these rakire. The millet stalks represent their masks, which they have brought to the funeral. Their role at the funeral is to provide a bit of comic performance to offset the otherwise serious character of the memorial service.
The Wanyaka, or the Dukir antelope mask. To the left, you see it is side. Well, it's actually pointed down, so you gotta turn your head a little bit to get the image of it. The Wanyaka means little antelope, and were danced at funerals, circumcision rituals, and other ceremonies. Excuse me. Masks occupy an important position in the religious life of the Inyanyosi, the ancient farmers and spiritual segment of the Mossy society. Masks appear at burials to observe on the behalf of the ancestors that proper burial procedures were carried out. Masks attend to honor the deceased and to verify that the spirit of the deceased merited admission into the world of the ancestors. Without a proper funeral, the spirit remained near the home and caused trouble for his or her descendants. Masks are still very sacred and are linked to the spirits of the ancestors and of nature. The Mossy fossil, a very old mask with crest in the form of a bird and big A, fertility doll. You see it? The Mossy live in northern and central Burkina Faso. They have a large reservoir of mass. The present Mossy mass is carved out of a light-colored, lightweight wood and was originally colored in brownish black and probably also white. The face part of the mask is covered with a typical triangle relief pattern. On his forehead sits the head of a holy hornbill. At the back, three of his tail feathers stand upright. In between stands one of the well-known fertility dolls of the uh, excuse me, of the fertility dolls of the Mossy, known as the Big Eye or Big A. Decorated with fabric and three sewn or cowrie shells are well as red as jaquirity beans, which are seed capsules, pressed in tree resin. A visibly very old mask with noticeably encrusted traces of frequent ritual offerings, with remains of chicken feathers on the bird head and on the Mossy Big Eye doll. On the inside of the mask displays a convincing shiny usage patina on the right places, an original repair to the bird beak, wrapped and glued. Exposed edges are chipped due to age. Karumba Burkina Faso, a typical old antelope dance crest painted. A large old dance crest known as Adani, of the Karumba in northern Burkina Faso, carved of a hard, heavy wood in form of an antelope head, horns, and neck, and with characteristic geometric motifs of triangle, striped lines, and dots painted black with blue and red. The antelope Adane is an important protective figure in the origin myths of most of the clans of the Karumba. It appears in dances at burials and in the honoring of ancestors. This Karumba antelope is an old piece with good usage patina and age-related loss of color. An older crack to the lower right shows remains of an old original repair.
On vient pratiquement du Bassouret. C'est la région du Nord. Chaque masque a son nom. Supposons si on prend les deux masques qu'on a portés. L'autre, c'est la poule. L'autre, c'est le bœuf. En Morée, on appelle la poule la noire. Norao. On appelle Norao. Oui. Voilà. Le bœuf là, on l'appelle Nafo. Donc je crois que les masses sont quelque chose. Elles font aussi des choses pour nous dans la vie. C'est que si on rentre dans la vie commune, on voit que au sein de nos ancêtres, c'est comme un héritage qu'ils ont laissé envers nous. On peut aller faire des doléances au masque. Par exemple, tu peux être au chômage, tu peux faire des doléances au masque pour avoir du travail. Comme tu peux faire des doléances au masque pour avoir des enfants. Tu peux avoir une femme qui n'enfante pas. Et que si tu demandes au masque, là, tu fais ces doléances-là qui vont t'aider.
Mossy Mask 1. On this mask, the flat crest is slightly longer than the mask itself. It is structured around a central post that erupts into an inverted triangle with thin fringes on either side. Two downward sloping horns on either side that are covered in hide sit below on a hollow diamond shape. Two protrusions invade the negative space between the diamond and the post. It is covered in triangular design of faded red, white, and blue pigment. The wood is split in two places near the top, one repaired with a staple and the other held together with hide. The elongated mask features two closely spaced rectangular holes for eyes. Three ridges run down the length of the mask, from the dome top to tamper chin. The central ridge starts from the crest of stubbed protrusions and transforms into a smooth ridge below the eyes. A central ridge exists between the crest, gradually tapered into the crown. The ridges on either side are all studded and do not run the length of the mask, instead going down from the eyes with two protrusions located at the temples. These ridges are painted red with triangular pattern decorating the mask. The dome top was semicircular ears, bands of colors encircled to the crown of the head. The back right portion is damaged and held together by a metal staple. The holes on either side are securing a fitted cap or a cowl of the fibers that hides the wearer's identity. The bigger hole in the cheek is likely used for the inserting of a stick for the performer to bite down on, to keeping the mask upright, further securing the mask when performed. Although what specific mask traditions this mask belongs to, this feature is similar to the other Mossy mask in the collection. Mask 2, which you kind of seen this demonstrated earlier in the other video. This tall, thin mask consists of a white mask. It's 12 inches long, 30 centimeters. That matches the length of the horns carved to resemble those of a gazelle and a plank, 45.5 inches long. That is covered in faded red and white pigment. The face is convex, held by triangular notches and is circular holes for eyes. The horns are also convex and have painted white tips. Triangles comprise most of the plank. The base of the middle of the plank are rectangles and have carved triangles inside them. The top head of the plank also has thin ladder-like designs going up in the center. It is capped with an inverted triangle. The mask shows considerable wear and some insect damage. This Mossy mask is an example of a northern mask style known as the Yatinga, primarily found in northwest section of the Mossy Plateau. They are characterized by their tall, narrow planks and concave oval faces that are painted white. The plank contains geometric patterns in low relief. Painted red and white, there may have been black pigment on the mask previously. The holes on the side are a cap cowl of fiber to place on the performer's head. It is similar to a Dogon plank mask. There were farming people who fled the invading Mossy in the 15th century, and those that stayed behind intermarried with the Mossy, possibly resulting in a connection between a contemporary Dogon and the Yatinga mask styles. The large hole on the cheek is for the inserting of a stick that the performer can bite down onto to steady the mask by keeping it upright. The other Mossy mask, like the other Mossy mask in the collection.
This is a Mossy mask. It's the style of the Mossy masks from the southwestern portion of Mossy country around the kingdom of Ouagadougou. The Mossy create three major styles of masks. In the north, they make vertical plank masks that look very much like those of their Dogon cousins. In the east, they make masks that are covered with thick fiber costumes. And in the southwest, where we see these masks, they make animal-headed masks that look like those of their Gurunsi cousins to the southwest. The diversity of Mossy mask styles reflects the complexity of their historical origins. This is a very magical mask because of its ability to put out flames. In the 1970s, when I attended funerals at which these masks performed, one of the rules was that flame was kept away from the masks because the fiber costumes were so flammable. More than one young man had died, burned to death because he had been smoking while wearing the mask costume. and the costume caught fire. The owner of this mask, Isawe Sawadogo, lives in Ouagadougou and had found in the market a fireproofing compound, which he applied to the fibers of the mask to make the fibers fireproof. The result is that the mask is able to snuff out fire while falling or flopping on the burning straw.
Fire put out. Gurinsu, Burkina Faso, an old small miniature mask in a style typical of the Gurinsi, probably used as a crest. A miniature animal mask made in typical Gurinsi or also Bababois style, carved from light brown wood with classical deep chip carving ornamentation on the front side of the color dark brown. There are remains of red coloring in deeper areas of the relief. The animal head, a buffalo, displays a plank-like crest carved out from the same piece of the rhombus-shaped hole in the middle. This carefully crafted miniature mask was probably once used as a crest on a larger dance mask or on ceremonial staff. There are noticeably traces of used chipped edges and are old and shiny patina in parts.
This video in 1976 in the village of Kwaltanga, about 20 kilometers to the west of the much larger town of Yonko, where my wife and Nora and I were working to carry out my research for my doctoral dissertation.
Check the mask out.
These crests are called zazaido in the plural, zazaigo in the singular. They are worn on the top of the head by a group of young men who belong to a village society that does public works and good deeds around the community over the course of the year. The crests have a vertical slab in the middle that represents a stone slab placed on people's graves. At either end is the image of an animal. Almost always one of these two animals is the antelope. The one on the opposite end may be a human, a bird, an antelope, or various other creatures. I also filmed the work of the Mossy artist Yamba Wedraugo in the same village in the same year. You can watch those videos on a video titled 3 Mossy Mask Carvers. There are dozens, perhaps even hundreds of these crests in public and private collections around the world. One of the most famous was collected by the German explorer Leo Frobenius in 1907 and is now in the museum in Berlin. Kwaltangan was a small village made up of a group of small family compounds, each of which was constructed of rectangular or round adobe houses covered with thatched roofs. Here you can see the group that is about to perform entering the village to dance on the village plaza. The performers turn their backs to the center and bob their heads up and down, swinging the Chuara crest as if they were real antelopes protecting their families of young and females at the center of the group. Every one of these Azido crests was carved by the artist Yamba Wadrago, who lives in the village of Kwaltangan. Here, a very elderly and senior woman ululates in praise of the performers in the dance group. I have not been to Kwaltangan in 30 years. It would be very interesting to return to see what has survived, what has changed, and what remains the same.
Bobo Bois Burkina Faso, a large old Janus-headed helmet mask with two faces figured and horns. A large Janus-headed helmet or pull-on mask from the Bobo Bois, carved from hard, heavy wood. Both faces level off underneath in a pointed, rounded chin area. They also have double eyebrow arches, large drooping eyelids, a long flat nose, and each one has a small round protruding mouth, as you can see. The surfaces on the faces are colored in white with colon under the brows and are triangle to cover the entire upper helmet is the typical triple bobo pattern. On both sides of the mask, there are two small ears, and each has a horn carved out from the same piece. In the central axis above the forehead, both masks face bear an entire human figure carved out from the same piece. A man on one side and a woman on the other side. They probably symbolize the ancestor couple of a Bobo clan, the clan founders. An interesting, carefully crafted old helmet mask with small age-related damages. Minor tears and some smaller pieces broken off, as well as color abrasions in the white colon areas. Otherwise, there's no damage to the mask. The warthog mask. Most Bois people are still traditional animists and conduct ceremonies based on the myths that recount the founding of each clan. Each of these myths is recreated by the performance of the wooden mask that represents bush spirits or spirits that take animal form. Animal masks imitate in a very stylized but expressive way the actions, behavior, or character of the animals that they represent. The warthog darts rapidly around the performance area, frequently scurrying through great clouds of dust raised by its dance. The men behind the mask. The Mossy artist Raoga Sawangado from the village of Karisi, east of Yaka, Burkina Faso in 1976. He is carving an antelope mask and wearing very ancient Mossy-style clothing consisting of a cotton smock and hat. This photograph was taken by none other than Chris Roy. Look at how he skillfully carved that antelope mask. Brother's talented. Yakuba Bande, a chief of the Bani, Burkina Faso, West Africa, is pictured in the 2010. Next to him is a plank mask.
Hold on, Sam Sean. Can y'all hear him out there? You was breaking up pretty bad. It might have been on my end though, Sean. Was he breaking up out there, fam?
Oh, cause y'all couldn't hear me. What about
yeah, they say
now,
you was
Kofi?
breaking up. Go back to the next slide, Sean.
Oh, nah, they said
you was
it was
breaking
you,
up.
Kofi. Mo said it was
huh? Oh, okay. I just seen somebody. Okay, she said no. All right, go ahead. That was me. I'm gonna have to go back and view that. I was breaking up a little bit. Go ahead.
you. Okay. Now, in this particular video, we're going to get deeper into the people behind the mask. This video is extensive. It is about 19 minutes. After this particular video concludes the presentation, for those who want to stick around for it, those who are not no longer interested, you could hop out at any time. But this video will conclude things, and of course, you know, I will reveal my sources, my picture references, and so forth. And but yeah, if you're gonna hang on with us, man, I appreciate everybody that was hanging in. But we're gonna get deeper into the people behind the mask.
What follows is a group of videos that I made in 1976 and 77. The originals were made with a Super 8 synchronized sound movie camera. I had the movies transferred to digital video. Here you see an elderly artist named Raugo Sawadago carving an antelope mask in the village of Kirsi in the spring of 1977. You can see that here he's blocking out the rough shape and removing the bark. These people are speaking Moray, the language of the Mossy people. Now you can see the rough form of an antelope. The horns are to the left and the snout is to the right. He is just about to separate the excess material from between the two horns. Now he uses a smaller adze to begin to dig the excess material out from inside the helmet of the mask. Late in 1976, I visited Yamba Wadrago, a carver in the village of Kwaltanga, about 20 kilometers to the west of Yako. The Yamba was famous for carving the crests that Mossy performers wear on top of their head, and which are called zozaido. The singular is zozigo. These are objects that artists in Kwaltanga have been making for over a century. Leo Frobenius, the great German explorer and adventurer, purchased some in Kwaltanga and gave them to the museum in Berlin.
Nah, he stole them. He ain't purchased them.
Here you see Yamba Wadrago's son painting the zozaido crest that his father has made. In this part of the video, the base of the crest is facing towards the upper left, and the horns are here. They are towards us and toward the three objects that he has already carved. Here you can see one head on the left and another on the right. His hand is on what will become the base of the crest. His son is painting the crests using two pigments, hematite red and a white made from the excrement left behind by tiny lizards that burrow in the ground. The black color is burned into the surface of the wood with a hot iron. Drago has kept this crest buried for some time in damp earth to allow it to dry out slowly. He then digs it up and finishes the carving before he turns it over to his son to paint. In 1976 and 1977, when I knew him, Yili Wango was a young man, a carver who worked up in the hills north of Yako in a village named Boobaloo. Nora and I went out into the wilderness several times with Yili Wango to watch as he carved masks. Here you can see him blocking out the basic shape. His left hand is on the upper crest that will form the feathers while he carves at the face and cheeks of the mask. Like all of the carvers in Burkina Faso, Yili Wango has a basic sort of recipe for carving, so that depending on the type of object he intends to carve, he blocks out the basic geometric shapes. Here you can see he is carved with the grain to free large masses of the wood from what will become the crest of the mask. He then cuts those across the grain using a small adze to free them from the carving. Like every other artist in Burkina Faso, Yili Wango pauses frequently to look at the mask and make sure that his work is symmetrical and that the proportions are right. Here he is carving out the inside of the mask to open up the section that will go over the performer's forehead or the top of his head.
Look at the tools that are used to make these masks. They're not really sophisticated at all. Mo, they still make them this way today. They still make them the same way.
Here he's using a particularly small adze for the detail work. A week later, Nora and I returned to Boobaloo to watch Yili Wango finish the mask by burning the holes for the costume using hot irons, and by pyro engraving the black details along the crest and the scarification patterns for the mask. As you can tell from the video, Yili Wango is wearing a wool balaclava over his head and face because it is so cold. Overnight, the temperature had dropped to about 85 degrees. He has a whole series of iron pokers with wooden handles set in the fire to heat up the iron portion. He then uses those to pyro engrave patterns on the surface of the mask. Now he is using the hot poker as a drill to create the openings through which the performer will be able to see.
What? You know, I'm not on the beginning of that one. You know.
Now Yili Wango and two of his younger friends prepare the red and white pigments with which he will paint the mask. They grind the red pigment using hematite or a red iron-rich stone. The boys dig the white pigment out of the burrows created by small lizards. It is a pure white and can also be replaced with classroom chalk. Is using the soft pith of a sorghum stalk as a brush to apply the pigments. Here he is talking about the different types of masks that he is able to carve, including the animal mask, the beautiful woman mask, the hawk mask, the bird mask, and several others. He is, of course, speaking Moray, the language of the Mossy people. At one point in the carving, he took a break and got up and wandered through the bush with us following, looking for an acacia tree with sap that had seeped out of the branches. This is the material that's called gum arabic, and it forms a very good sealant or glue for the pigments. This video shows off the colors and patterns of the mask particularly well. Finally, some black pigment is used that he boils up from the seed pods of the acacia tree.
All right, so that concludes that particular video. Here are my sources. You can pause the video, and you can write down this particular information, and you can get into it. I use different scholars for this particular presentation. They get into too many links or anything like that. Here go my picture references and some sources that were pertaining to information that had to deal with the particular pictures, as you can see below. And a lot of them come out of art galleries and museums of the liking. All right, so before we conclude our presentation and all of that, Brother Kobe, you got something you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to tell the family if they wanted some more information about the Mossy Warrior Clan and about the masses. We did a presentation on the mass presentation. We did a presentation on the Mossy, as well as Brother Ben did a build on them. So if you want more information, just look on the channel. We appreciate everybody coming out, tuning in. We ask that you continue to support us, continue to subscribe as we continue to try to build this channel up. It's great content. Go back and look at this video, share the video, tell your friends, your family about the video. And that's it, man. And Modupe.
Yeah, man. Please like, subscribe, and share the video. We are trying to provide great content for the people that can go back and view this information. And hopefully we all can learn. Like Kofi says, I learned, we all learn. That's a motto we stand by. And we're going to continue busting y'all upside the head with this real information. On that note, we're going to rock out.
For the unity and the redemption of the African world. Salute them honorable Marcus. We were not ready to listen then. They might not have been ready then. There's wonder whether we are ready. Ain't no doubt about it. To listen. We ready, baby. Now. Let's go. Yeah. Flag fly high. Flag fly high. Flag fly high. Black kiss in the sky, but the side to side. If the flag fly high. Come on. Flag fly high. Flag fly high. Flag fly high. All these G's on the rise, all eyes will recognize the flag fly high. Hold it high. Let it fly. Rebel colors forever. Garvey would never die. On my 90, the throne ready. Let's take a ride. Cats won't fix me and don't choose a side. This is the path for the warriors. Some travel yet still bad glorious. Black power represents us. You either rolling with Africa or against us. Flag fly high. Flag fly high. Flag fly high. Black kiss in the sky, breaking side to side. If the flag fly high. Come on. Flag fly high. Flag fly high. Flag fly high. All these G's on the rise, all eyes will recognize the flag fly high. The red is for the blood. I got the best stock. The rest got stood. The black is for the guys, melanated and elevated, holding the main charge. The green is for the cradle. Africa, everything first, the earth's navel. His excellency put it together as a symbol of liberation. That's how we get the letters RBG. flag fly high, flag fly high, flag fly high. Black kiss in the sky, wave side to side, if the flag fly high. Come on, flag fly high, flag fly high, flag fly high. All the G's on the rise, all eyes are recognized. Flag fly high, the fly high since 99. People on me them no time. I'm the drab on my design, we both ready. Hard line, ain't no game for that red flag. Triple stage of that black bag. Revolution in my veins, till we free, I won't change. Then you can count on that like an abacus. Celebrate the victories and the challenges. It's deeper than social media statuses. This lifestyle for nation building practices. Yeah, flag fly high, flag fly high, flag fly high. Black kiss in the sky, wave side to side, if the flag fly high. Come on, flag fly high, flag fly high, flag fly high. All the G's on the rise, all eyes go back to God, the flag fly high. I see that red, 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 black, 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 green, green, green. All BG, I'm about that red, 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 black, 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 green, green, green. That all BG, I'm about that red, 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 that black, 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 that green, green, green. All BG, I'm about that red, 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 black, 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 green, green, green. That all BG, baby. All BG, baby. Fly high, my flag fly high, my flag fly high. Shout out to all my RBGs worldwide. Doing this thing, garbage style. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Flag fly high, my flag fly high. Come on. Flag fly high, my flag fly high, my flag fly high. RBGs on the rise, all eyes gonna recognize. My flag fly high. It's so familiar, it's so.
That concludes the presentation, man. I appreciate everybody tuned in. You know, we try to do the best that we can to present this information to the masses. Please like the show, share the show, subscribe to the channel if you appreciate the content that has been presented to you, not only today, but over the past few months. We have been coming every week with new information regarding West Africa, the culture, the people. We've been dealing with the Gullah, the Americas. We've been dealing with the slave trade. We've been dealing with energy, spirituality. We have a well-rounded group of people, and we have some up-and-coming information that'll be coming from our other brothers that are members of the Mossy that you really don't hear from. That they're quiet for a particular reason. Uh, so look forward to that. Look forward to a few publications that are lined up by Mossy Warrior members. Amin Ma'at Ra, Kofi Paisai, Benjamin Naji, and also Big Brother Nahisi. I think he may be dropping before everybody else. So look forward to his book. He's gonna have some daggers in his book, and support the channel, support the clan, support the other family members. I am also a member of the Seshu Mani Mananecha. We did a show Friday. Support that show, like that show, share that show. Look it up on Facebook, the Seshu Mani Mananecha crew, and also, the Amin Ra Squad, look for their information as always, as a forefather in scientific literacy to the community. Um, Look out for Sar Imhotep's work. I believe he has some work coming. Saber Wujah will have some work coming. Um, everybody's doing work. I think Sanjetti actually secretly has something coming that he's been working on for quite a while under the radar, if I'm not mistakenly. So Sister Naya as well, and Dr. Ma'at. I think they still have some more heat coming as well. So and the Magi. We haven't heard from the Magi. He been, kicking back a little bit, but when he get into that phase, he's usually working. So, stay tuned to the Amara Squad. They got some up and coming lectures, events, and things of that nature. I also look forward to Kofi Pasa and any Herit. You know, we got some things cooking up or projecting as well. And you know, everybody, man, all the families across the line are all working. And you know, we want to continue to do what we can do to provide the content and information for the people. I thank everybody for tuning in. You could be doing anything else. It is for a lot of people that celebrate Father's Day. And you could be, you know, spending that time, um, you know, hanging with your father for those who have fathers, those who do not have fathers around anymore, you know, keep them in your memory and your prayers as like me. And, you know, pour some libations out for them, like Brother Ben said, and acknowledge them, you know, and say their name today. So, you know, on that note, if I forgot anybody, man, shout out to the chat room. Y'all pretty active today. Withstood all this time. I usually don't go this long winded, but for this particular presentation behind the mask of the Mossy, it had to be cultivated in this particular manner. You know, look for Kofi Pasa in the next few weeks. Remember, he's on a hiatus. So, you know, I don't know if we're going to be holding anything down next week or not, but go ahead, Kofi.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna just be off one more week. Another week. I got one in the can and one I'll probably be working on maybe in the next week or so. So just stay tuned. I ain't gonna be gone too long. I'm just tired. I'm tired, and the old lady say I'm Kofi pie sign too much. So.
That's the truth right there. That last part is the truth. Now the rest of that was fluff. But when he said the old lady, you know, everybody, y'all know what that means. She want her time, Kofi. But on that note, we done, man. Thank you for tuning in. Share the show, like the show. You know, subscribe to the channel. You know, help us build. Help us build. Thank you.